Sure. So just confirming that the interpretation is on, correct? I didn't get the notification. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. So this meeting will be recorded. Please take a moment to update your name to include what your preferred name is and your pronouns. You can do that by hovering over your picture or name in Zoom and pressing the three dots. When we call on you for questions, it's really helpful to have your correct name there. To start with, your microphones are turned off. You will be able to unmute to share feedback. If you are calling in by phone, you'll press *6 to unmute. You can also use nonverbal feedback options. You can raise your hand or leave a message in the chat box if you have a question. If you called into the meeting, you will use *9 to raise your hand. All right, so let's get started. This is our Neighborhood Slow Streets meeting for November 2021. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to do a quick introduction of the team. So my name is Stephanie Seskin. I'm the Active Transportation Director in the Boston Transportation Department. And tonight, our engineer, Dan Merrow, isn't able to join us, but Hannah Fong is here.
Hi, everyone. A lot of you have met me before, but if not, I am the planner with the Boston Transportation Department, working primarily on the Neighborhood Slow Streets program.
We also have some friends and supporters from our consultant team, Kittleson and Associates. That includes Margaret, Amelia, and Paulina. They're here to take notes so that we capture everything that you're saying. And Amelia has been involved in the design and will be able to answer some of the design questions that Dan would normally be answering. All right, so this is the zone that we're talking about. All of the streets in blue are streets that we have been working with you to think through solutions to your traffic safety and traffic calming needs. Tonight, we're going to review what we've done so far, give you some updates on the concepts, talk about Perrin Street and what to expect as next steps. So for those of you who might be new tonight to Neighborhood Slow Streets, this is a program from the City of Boston that focuses on safety on a connected network of small neighborhood streets. We focus on built design changes that improve safety and slow speeds. Within the zone, there is a posted speed limit of 20 miles per hour. The way that we approach design is a bit different than what we have done in the past as a city. So our first step is always to engage residents in prioritizing the focus areas within their neighborhood. We make sure that our designs prioritize people who are walking and biking, older adults, youth, and people with disabilities. Our goal is to reduce crashes that lead to serious injury or fatality. We've heard from you in a number of ways since we launched this program with you in summer 2020. They're listed here on the screen. So we're building on things that you have shared already, and hopefully we're getting them right. And that's what we're here tonight to check on. So your letters and comments and our observations informed some design concepts that we shared back in May. We took comments on those throughout the summer. And since then, we have also gathered additional engineering data to understand what is underneath our streets, where the utilities are located, and better refine those concepts into initial designs, which we'll share tonight. So first, I'm going to talk about things that you're going to see throughout the zone. So first, at all entrances, everywhere that drivers can come into your neighborhood, we'll be adding 20-mile-per-hour signs and supplemental 20-mile-per-hour pavement markings. We're also going to be adding speed humps on almost every street in the zone. Speed humps are usually spaced between 150 and 250 feet apart. They are not in front of driveways, and they have no impact on parking. So speed humps are about 12 feet long, and they're a gradual taper up and down. Speed bumps are abrupt, and you'll probably see them more in parking lots. We're not building that type. What we're building is something that feels comfortable to drive on at about 20 miles per hour. When we plan for speed humps, there are three main considerations that we think about. First is hills. We cannot put speed humps on streets that are too steep. Second are curved streets. So we can't put speed humps on or too close to curves because drivers won't have enough advanced visibility to see them. We also consider emergency needs. So we have guidance from emergency responders to plan how many speed humps we can put on any route. We're trying to balance everyday safety on your streets, having drivers go slow, with ensuring that in an emergency, the response times aren't extended too long. So this map is small. I'm going to show it larger in a moment. All of the streets that are in blue are streets that we're considering for speed humps. Streets that are white or gray will not have speed humps as part of this program. We don't know exactly where all of the speed humps will go right now. We will be able to come back with those details. There may also be street segments that we find we can't put speed humps on because there might be too many driveways or the street might be a little bit too short. So the northern half of the zone, I'm showing all of the streets that are possible for speed humps. And for folks on the phone, this includes Forest Street, Vine Street, Mount Pleasant Avenue, Winthrop Street, Greenville Street, Cleveland Street, Fairland Street, Moreland Street, and Montrose Street. Switching to the southern half of the zone, showing you all of the streets that are eligible for speed humps. This includes Moreland Street, Whiting Street, Montrose Street, Aspen Street, Dunry Street, Copeland Street, Perrin Street, Alaska Street, and Waverly Street. So you're more likely to find speed humps on streets in your zone than streets without speed humps. And these will be online so you can spend more time looking at them. Any other questions about the speed humps? Feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Oh, there's a question. Luce?
Yes, hi. My name is Luz Colon, DSNI, DNI Community Liaison. We have some of our residents here because they have the same concerns. We've been talking to them about, safety in the neighborhood. And thanks to Kevin, we're invited to join this meeting tonight. Sort of the question is, how can we what is our process to get these bumps or humps in the other side of Blue Hill, which are some of the streets that are having the same problem with traffic and accidents, and even a child was hit in one of the streets because of speed. So how can we sort of tag along, right?
Sure.
To this project, so to speak. If it's possible, what is our process? What will be the process for us?
Sure. So right now we have sort of a line of neighborhoods that are waiting. So we have about 5 neighborhoods that we prioritized in 2018 that haven't had construction yet for their speed humps and other things. And then we have 3 additional zones, Moreland, Mount Pleasant, Hancock Street Triangle in Dorchester, and Lower South and vicinity in Roslindale. Once the construction catches up a bit more, we'll be opening the Slow Streets program to new communities. It's a pretty simple process. We just ask for 24 residents to sign a petition, and we check the addresses to make sure it's people who live in the zone. And then we prioritize your area based on the number of households with children, the percentage of people with disabilities, the percentage of residents who are older, so 65 and up. We also look at things like, are there parks, schools, libraries, community centers? So Hannah has put a link in the chat to show all of the zones that we're working in right now. We just, because we're so far behind on construction from comp time from the COVID, and supply chain problems that have affected our construction crews. It just doesn't feel like fair to start a planning process that might take 5 years for folks. So we're trying to keep these moving as fast as we can, but we really need the construction to catch up. And if you sign up for our emails on boston.gov /slow-streets, Hannah will put the link in the chat as well. You'll get notice of when we're looking for new neighborhoods to prioritize.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kevin?
Yes, thank you so much, Stephanie and Luz. Thank you for your question. Apologies for any background noise. I do have you on my car. I'm driving, so I apologize for that. I was just curious. You had mentioned 5 years. I think I heard that wrong. Would you mind just sharing that again? I don't know if you cut out the 5 years part. Is that anticipated from when you open the application period to Slow Streets again to sort of like project completion?
So right now we have communities that were prioritized in 2018 that won't have construction until 2022. So that's 4 years. 5 was just kind of being hyperbolic. But because construction has been taking so much longer than we anticipated, I don't want to start this process in a new community and have to wait that long from initial design to construction. So some of the challenges that we have are that we do a lot of intensive community outreach, a lot of mailings, in-person activities, online activities, to try to get as much feedback as possible. And now people are just waiting while cars continue to speed down their streets. And it just doesn't feel like we're delivering because we aren't. And we're not able to because of the construction problems that we've been facing. So this program is supposed to be 3 years, a year for initial outreach, a year to refine the design, and a year for construction. But we've found that, again, with those delays, it is taking much longer than anticipated. I have one neighborhood that started this process in 2016 and it finished this summer. So that was 5 years for them.
So just a quick thank you so much for that. And I actually really appreciate the honesty in the planning process and how that process works. Now, you just as a really quick a follow-up question on that, is there, that's not what you're describing is not necessarily an issue of funding or investment in the program. It really is just timeline on how, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to talk about the first focus area that you all selected, which is Moreland Street by the Gertrude House Playground. We're focusing here because you told us that it doesn't feel safe to cross the street. It's hard to see other people in the intersections, whether they're walking or driving. And it's also an important place for the community, and it should be safe to get there. So the last time we came to talk with you in the spring, we gave you sort of 2 options for what we could do at Moreland at Fairland. So one option was to add curb extensions, and the other option was to do a raised intersection where all of the crosswalks are up at sidewalk level. And from your feedback, and our engineering review, we determined that a raised intersection is the direction that we're going to go here. So this is what that would look like. You can see that coming from all directions, you'll have a stop line and a stop sign. So drivers will have to stop before the intersection. There will be an area where you'll be going up about 6 inches to sidewalk height to travel through and down. So this will elevate the crosswalk. There are no ramps for you to go down and across and then back up. These are all flat, even surface. So you'll be up a bit higher for drivers to see you. It will also slow people down as they're coming in and just reinforce that as a driver, you need to be on the lookout for people crossing the street. Just down the street at Copeland, we also gave you 2 options. The first was a raised crosswalk with a curb extension, and the second was a fully raised intersection. Again, based on your feedback, we're going to go with a fully raised intersection here. So we are looking at changing these curbs a bit so that as you're approaching as a pedestrian, you can go in any direction. We'll have all of this raised up to sidewalk level. And as a driver, again, you'll have to slow down to come and over it. You'll also be better able to see pedestrians. And for drivers that are turning down Copeland Street, you'll also be going much slower because you'll have to be going up and back down to turn. There will also be speed humps elsewhere on Moreland and on Copeland to keep those speeds low. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Wherever we're doing crosswalk improvements, it does come with more parking restrictions. This makes it so that, one, we can have the crosswalk. You can't park on the crosswalk itself. But we also restrict some space as you're approaching the crosswalk so that drivers, as they're coming down the street, are better able to see pedestrians, especially short pedestrians, youth, people in wheelchairs, people like me who are just shorter people in general. So there is some parking impact as a result, and I just want to be very clear that that's a trade-off that as a city we're willing to make to improve safety for pedestrians. So at Fairland and Moreland, we're looking at about 4 parking spaces. So one here, a couple here, one here, and sort of one here. At Copeland, we would be restricting parking in this area and this area on each side of the raised intersections. That's about 2 parking spaces. All of the plans will go through a full review with all of our teams, including street lighting. So if there is an opportunity to improve street lighting, it can be part of this project. So moving down Copeland Street, we're looking at this location because there's also a park. You can't see people who are trying to get to the park. It's not even really a crosswalk to get you to the park. And there's a bend in the street that makes it hard to kind of see what's coming up. So last time we came to you with the concept on the left, which featured curb extensions and a raised crosswalk. Following our engineering analysis, we've changed it a little bit. So we can't add a curb extension on the other side of the street because of where the utilities are underground. And again, because this is a new crosswalk, it means that we're going to have to restrict parking where it used to be. So you won't be able to park on the crosswalk. And you also won't be able to park on the approaches to the crosswalk. This improves visibility and makes this a nice, safe crossing. So we'll be restricting parking from about here through this curve. And there's a driveway right here already. We may be able to keep the parking spot here, but not right here on the crosswalk itself. And yes, by law, you're not allowed to park on a crosswalk or, and by city ordinance or not ordinance, it's rules and regulations from the transportation department, you're not supposed to park within 20 feet of an intersection. But again, because we're adding new crosswalks, it is changing how people are able to park. So it's not just enforcing existing rule, we are adding new. So again, we will be restricting some parking spaces here. It'll be between 5 and 6, but we'll be able to work that out. And I know that in a lot of neighborhoods, the goal is to try to minimize as much parking loss as possible. We're going to try to do that. But again, our position is that pedestrian safety has to come first. And we're really excited about making these crosswalk improvements happen. All right, the third focus area that we talked about last time is on Mount Pleasant Avenue. So we're focusing at the second bend of Mount Pleasant Avenue because there is another park. There's no crosswalk to that park. We've heard that, you know, you can't see people when they're crossing the street. You definitely can't see them when they're crossing to the park. The bend causes visibility issues, and people tend to speed up going around here. So on the left is what we shared back in the spring. And on the right is our initial design. So the things that have changed, again, because of where the utilities are underground, we can't add curb extensions for the new raised crosswalk at the park entrance. We also will be rebuilding the curb ramps over Mount Pleasant Terrace because they're not accessible, or they don't meet the guidance. And we'll also be able to add the crosswalk that should be right there. Like the other crosswalk improvements, this also has some impacts on parking. The crosswalks over Mount Pleasant Avenue are new crosswalks. You won't be able to park on top of them. We also will be restricting some parking in advance of those crosswalks to improve visibility of people who are crossing the street. In total, we're expecting about 4 parking spaces because of the raised intersection, 2 for the crosswalk and 2 in front of it. And then for the new crosswalk down here, we're also expecting to lose a couple of spaces. There is no parking along the curve already, but we would restrict parking just in front of the new crosswalk here. So it's maybe 2 to 3, especially if people pack a little closer, it's more like 3. There are no stop signs here because there are no conflicting traffic movements. So stop signs are meant to control who gets to go at an intersection. So we're aiming for the raised crosswalk, the curb extension, and the series of speed humps that will be on this street to bring people to safer speeds. And again, all of these will be reviewed by our street lighting team. And if it's possible to improve the street lighting, we will be able to do that. Joshua?
Yeah, thank you. I think just a couple of quick questions. I live in the Mount Pleasant area. And I had a question about the driveway that's at 40 Mount Pleasant Avenue, if that's been factored in. I can see on this one, it looks like it, and on the, so maybe that's changed since the flyer I saw. And then I also had a question about, so sorry, maybe, should we do that one first, and I'll ask my second one?
Yeah, so the flyer had our concept design on it that wasn't, that hadn't gotten the next round of engineering on it. So you can see that our plan includes that driveway.
Okay, cool. Because and that was one of my next questions was, there's like a giant tree and a fire hydrant there. And I think because of the fire hydrant, it's already supposed to be a no park zone, but a lot of people stop there. So I was curious. And obviously it looks like, you know, by the time I'm seeing the concept, you're already another step ahead. So, but so I guess my combination with that was, you know, that can be a really tight spot. You know, we often get a lot of large trucks having a rough time with there. So I was curious at how this round of changes kind of brought that into concept as well.
Sure. So we are bringing the curb out a bit further than where it is today. So today it's back here. Amelia, do you happen to know how far out we're pulling the curb?
I don't recall for that specific part, like where he's talking about with the tree and the fire hydrant, but I can check that and we can get back on that. But it does taper down where the curb extension is at its greatest. I believe we did it about 6 feet out from the current edge of curb. So less
back here.
Yeah, so less than 6 feet. But I can look into that exact number for the spot that he's talking about.
Yeah, so we're hoping to really discourage people from feeling comfortable parking on the curve by making it too narrow to like be comfortable to park right there.
Okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah. But we're definitely trying to build around the tree and not touch the tree itself, because it is a nice mature tree.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Oh, Kevin, sorry, just saw your hand up.
No, I'm sorry, I'll be super fast. Thank you so much. I was just curious, throughout the planning process on this, have you, in your experience, seen any sort of intermediate or temporary tools used? Whether it's like stop signs, lighting, better signage, to sort of, supplement sort of how long this will take? Like anything like temporary for like the next few months and years. Have you seen that before on any of these?
Yeah, so street lighting is always a long-term project, so that's not really possible quickly. The city does do projects that we call quick build, that are just using pavement markings and signs. So those can be effective, but they aren't always as like good at their job as a more permanent changes would be, let's say.
For sure.
So, because what we're trying to do is start with applying speed humps across the zone and making investments in areas near important community places like these parks. There's not really like a quick build tool for a raised crosswalk that really has the same level of effectiveness. There are definitely sort of temporary things that residents have done and that we have done that have been helpful, but with this program, we're really trying to make those permanent investments.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so
And
much.
I guess, yeah, I mean, I would also say that anything temporary usually takes at least a year to get out the door. And just because we do go through multiple rounds of review and we still need to check to make sure that, fire is okay with it and that the trash trucks can still run. And by the time you've done that much engineering, my experience has been with this program that we should have just been building it to begin with. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That might be sort of an option for some of the folks who are asking about another neighborhood. If they're looking at 5 years out, their advocacy
Hopefully
probably would
less
be
than
more.
5 for this program.
Yeah,
but
not to throw that number. Yeah, sorry. But
yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So Carl poses a question in the chat about when studies are done, do we know the time of day they are done? So we normally do traffic data collection for a 12-hour period between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Sometimes we'll do a full 24 hours, especially if we're trying to understand if speeding is happening more at night or if it's definitely happening all day, which we often find. But we definitely try to include as much of the day as possible, and usually at least 2 days of information. Okay. So we also got a lot of requests to think about making Perrin Street a one-way street. So I'm going to hand things off to Amelia to talk us through what that would mean and what some of the trade-offs might look like.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and pull up some maps to go through 2 different options that we looked at for Perrin Street. All right. And Stephanie, just to confirm, can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
All right, great. So as Stephanie said, we had heard that there were some concerns about Perrin Street and the width of it not being adequate for 2-way traffic. So what this is showing right here is an option to convert it to 1-way eastbound. The reason we guess number this option 1 is just that it would create a 1-way pair with Copeland Street because Copeland goes in the opposite direction. So what I wanted to just go through right now is a quick exercise in how people might, living on this street or parking on this street might access that area with this change in street direction. So in general, if you're coming from Blue Hill Avenue, either from the north or from the south, you could come in via Alaska Street and then take a right onto Perrin. That, of course, wouldn't get you within this block of Perrin between Alaska and Waverly, so that route would be a little bit different. That route would probably look a little bit more like coming in from the street just south of the zone, coming up Warren, down Waverly, and then onto Perrin Street that way. If you're coming from Warren Street, either again from the north or the south, you would take largely that same direction, coming in from Waverly and then down Perrin Street. Next, I'll go over how you would get out if you were parked or live on the street with this circulation option. So if you want to go back out towards Blue Hill, it's relatively simple. You would just drive down Perrin, make a right on Moreland, and then from there you can continue on to Blue Hill. If you're going back out towards Warren Street, you have a couple of different ways that you could get there. You could come this way on Moreland, down Whiting, and then out that way. Or if you're heading a little bit more towards the south, you could use Blue Hill and then again use this one-way pair that goes with Warren that way. So that's option one. Stephanie, do we want to pause here before moving on to option two?
Yeah, let's take just a quick, see if anyone has questions about that.
Hi, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
That's okay.
I have a quick question. So I live right on the corner of Waverly and Perrin. So can you go through, because I use Blue Hill a lot to access my house, mostly via Alaska Street. So can you show me again how I would get to my house if this change was made? Thank you.
Yes. So I believe you're saying you're one of the people on this block here. So if you're coming from Blue Hill, that would probably look a little bit more like coming in from this street just towards the south, up Warren, down Waverly, and then take a left on Perrin there.
Cool. So I'm curious. I was one of the people who requested having Perrin be a one-way, just because if you ride it, especially closer to Moreland, you see like the two cars that are almost always parked. It's hard to like see, but the little spot between Waverly and Alaska is a lot of the time clear. So when you guys did the traffic study, did you actually see issues with that area in terms of having to make it? Like, could you not make it a one-way in the middle of the street, basically?
So I think if I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is have we looked at if we just leave this section here as being two-way and then the rest of it would stay one-way? Yeah,
it's a little self-serving, but I'm just curious because that's a lot of like extra things to get to my house.
Right. No, that's a fair point. We can take a look at that. We didn't delve into that too terribly much, but we can take a look at that and see if that would be reasonable, because it's a fair point that it is a bit more circuitous because you don't have the option. Everybody else who lives towards the east from Alaska, they can come in that way, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to.
Yeah, essentially I wouldn't have an entrance. Not just me, actually, the people also really on Waverly, like the south part of Waverly as well. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't really have a direct entrance via Blue Hill. They would have to kind of go circular, and there's not a light on that street you're proposing. Mm-hmm. So especially during Blue Hill rush hour, you're doing annoying things where, just a suggestion.
Okay, yeah, and we can also look at option two, because I think option two doesn't have necessarily that same constraint. But thank you for that comment.
Yes.
We have one.
We'll have the reverse issue, I think.
Mhm.
Oh, we have the person on the phone who wanted to make a comment. If you're on the phone, you have to press *6 to unmute.
Yes, the reason why we wanted to have Parent Street go one way all the way down is because when they come up Alaska Street and they take a left onto Parent and go into Waverly, they're doing 80 miles an hour. And if we try to put it to a two-way when we get to that corner, there will still be a lot of accidents, which we have watched accidents take place. So one way from Waverly all the way down to Moreland, we would rather keep it that way because when they're coming up, if they come up Alaska Street, make that turn, they do not stop at the stop sign. They just make the turn onto Parent Street going to Waverly. No one stops.
Thanks for that comment. Appreciate you chiming in on that.
Thank you.
All right, are there any more comments on this, or maybe is now a good time to look at the second option?
Yeah, I think let's just go over what happens if Perrin is south from Moreland to Waverly.
Yep, sounds good. So the second option would have the street be one way in the opposite direction. So as Stephanie said, sort of southbound. And we'll just do kind of that same exercise in, how you would get in and out coming from Blue Hill and Warren. So if you're coming from Blue Hill, relatively simple, either from the north or south direction, you can come in via Moreland, take a left onto Perrin, and go all the way down towards Waverly. If you're coming in from Warren Street, either from the north or the south, you can come in, take your turn, either a left or a right onto Waverly, down that direction. No, I did this wrong. My apologies. We went over this, Stephanie, my apologies. So it's Montrose, actually. So you would come in via Montrose and make the turn on Montrose Street. There we go. Right onto Moreland, and then a right again onto Perrin. So let me go ahead and do that one again, just to clarify. If you're coming in to the neighborhood from Warren Street, you can turn onto Montrose, drive down, make a right on Moreland, and then make a right again down Perrin Street. All right, so that's to get in. To get out, if you are coming down Perrin Street and you're looking to go towards Blue Hill, you would drive down, make a left onto Waverly, and then from there, either a left or a right onto Blue Hill. If you're looking to head out towards Warren Street, you would largely go in that same direction. You would come down towards Waverly, make a left there, a right onto Blue Hill, and then head to the street towards the south to make a right again and back towards Warren. So those are just some options. Obviously, there are other routes or paths that one could take, but just wanted to walk through the most obvious ones that appeared to us.
Go ahead, Alicia.
Hi, yep, self-serving me again with the house on. So I don't think this is the best idea. The only reason I say that is because they're building those apartments, I'm sure you've seen at the tip of Waverly. So that essentially means that everybody would have to exit through just this one street. And if you've ever driven on it during any sort of rush hour, like traffic in the afternoon or in the morning, because there's no light on Blue Hill, lines are typically like you know, several cars deep on Waverly. So I think generally like this would probably mess up traffic a lot, especially with the added apartments. And then there was a community meeting a while ago talking about adding more affordable housing on Waverly Street specifically. So it just seems like there would be only one way to exit the neighborhood. But just my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful.
Sorry, just to clarify, Alicia, you mean there's only one way to exit because you wouldn't be able to take Perrin up to Moreland?
Right. So when you exit out of Perrin, you could take Moreland left or right, essentially. And if you take it left to Blue Hill, you have a light. So even though there's typically traffic during, you know, rush hour, you're covered by a light. When you try to make that left or right on Waverly onto Blue Hill, especially like you're talking like 3-4 p.m. I mean, you just really can't. So I think the only way that would work is if you add a light at that intersection. Yeah, so if you get bored one day and just try to do it in the afternoon, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, thank you. And yes, so I actually want to clarify that you cannot take a left from Warren Street to Montrose Street because of the median.
Left from Warren to Montrose. Oh,
Yes.
right, because of the median here.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
It's okay, you got flustered with the marker
I
and
did.
everything. It's okay.
My apologies.
Okay, well, what we will do as our next step is just because we only have a handful of people here today, we'll make sure that everyone who might be impacted by a street direction change on Perrin Street gets some information that we're looking at changing the street direction, really get everyone's feedback and lived experiences. And then we'll come back to try to figure out what the right resolution to all of the challenges might be. So we'll do some data collection and we'll also, but we're really looking to understand how these impacts will, how these changes will impact your lives. And all of the comments in the chat will also go into our notes. So thank you for adding your thoughts there too. Sean.
Hi, I just have a quick question about Mount Pleasant Ave. I may have missed it. You may have already said this. I know you said there is a plan to introduce speed humps on Mount Pleasant Ave. Is there any? Are you at a stage yet where you have an idea where they might be or what the density might be?
We are not yet. We will be able to share more information once we lay it all out and take it through our internal approvals process the first time. So we get feedback from everyone, all of the different agencies to make sure that we haven't overlooked something, which happens because there's so much that happens on our streets. So we don't yet know exactly where the speed humps will go, but we do aim to have them about 150 to 250 feet apart. Which will give you a sense.
Can I just ask one follow-up question?
Sure.
Just that I think what you're doing overall here is really good. In the larger sense, and I don't know if you can comment on this, is like changing Perrin Street or making any street one way. The compliance with those one ways. There are a serious amount of traffic coming up the wrong way on Fairland and taking a left on Mount Pleasant, and also coming up Vine Street and taking a left on Mount Pleasant to go down Fairland. So ignoring the one way on Fairland and ignoring the one way on Mount Pleasant. This might be more of a question for BPD or whoever enforces traffic, but like, have you guys given any consideration to signposting for those, what do you want to call them, scuffles?
Yeah, this is
Like-
definitely, it's come up several times in every discussion that we've had about this project. So I'm actually just gonna, Amelia, I'm gonna take over again. Okay. So, you know, we're closing in on 8 o'clock tonight. We don't want to end the discussion early, but there's just so many things to talk about with all of you that we are planning to have another meeting to talk through some additional things. So looking more closely at what is possible about those wrong way drivers in the Mount Pleasant Ave area. We've also heard about wrong way drivers elsewhere in the zone that we'll also be taking a closer look at. We have requests for new crosswalks that we're looking into. We've also gotten a number of reports that there are visibility issues at certain intersections. So we're going to be reviewing all of those as well. And so that will be coming back to you with in our next meeting. So we haven't forgotten. It's just a lot for one meeting.
Sure.
And again, you know, we're at the point in our design process where we can still make changes. We're not locked into exactly what we presented tonight. And as I mentioned, you know, there are a bunch of other things that we're still working on to bring back to you. So be sure to stay in touch with us. We have virtual office hours where you can join us in a virtual meeting or by phone to talk one-on-one about what's happening and give us your thoughts and feedback. You can obviously also get in touch by email or phone or regular mail. And we also really hope that you'll share with your neighbors. We do send mailings to all of the addresses. But I know for me, it's also very easy to just sort of overlook stuff that comes in the mail. So please be sure to talk to your neighbors about this program and where they can get more information. So right now we're in the engineering study phase of our project where we are reviewing the types of changes that we've made since we talked to you last year. We're still going through all of your comments to try to figure out what we're able to address well through this program. We can't solve everything, but we'll do our best to make things safer. We'll be coming back, as I mentioned, with another meeting and then working through finalizing our plans with the hopes of being able to hand them off to our Public Works Department for construction late summer 2022. That doesn't mean that they will be able to do everything next year, but they may be able to at least get started on some of the elements of this. But we will be in touch frequently. You can always reach out at any time to talk with us. So I've just put up on the screen our website, the link to make one of those appointments with us, our email address and our mailing address. So please get in touch. I think Hannah will probably drop those links in the chat so that you have them. Already did. Look at that. So efficient, Hannah. Yeah. So at this point, I think happy to take more questions, open for conversation, but it is 8 o'clock, so we don't want to keep everyone too late, but happy to stay around for anyone who wants us to.
Yeah, and we can also go back to different slides if you want to see them again and take a closer look.
I know daylight savings time, it maybe feels even later than it is. It's been dark for hours. You know, if you just want to go, feel free. our feelings are not hurt, but we do want to stay if anyone has anything to share. All right, folks are dropping off. So
just a quick
oh,
comment.
sure. Yeah.
So I moved into the neighborhood pretty recently, and I just wanted to thank you guys for when I filled out the survey last year about the one-way street. You know, you never think anybody reads those, so I just wanted to appreciate you guys, you know, taking the feedback into account and sort of implementing it in the plan. So I appreciate that. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Yeah. So have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Alicia.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Right.
As I mentioned in the chat, we'll also post this recording in Spanish and English on the website and share an email. So you can share this around and share with anyone who wasn't able to get information but still wants to learn about what's happening in the project.
Hello, my name's Ken Dadabo. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Ken.
Hi, I just joined. I just heard about this. I'm interested in the speed bumps because my father tried to set up a petition for Julian Street, and he gave it to one of the household persons and they never got it back. But we're interested for Julian and Rand. I can't hear.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So Julian Street is not part of the zone that we're looking at right now.
Okay.
We will be looking to add more neighborhoods to the program in the near future, as I explained earlier in the meeting. So for those of you who are done listening to me talk, sorry, I'm repeating myself, but because we've had so many construction delays, we have been putting off adding more neighborhoods to the program because we don't want you to wait around for 4+ years to get your speed humps. We'd like to follow our original process for this, which is, you know, a year for getting your initial feedback and developing concepts, a year to refine all of those designs and go through our review process, and then a year for construction. So 3 years total. But right now, because of our delays in construction, we have neighborhoods that have been waiting since 2019 to get their speed humps and other things. And we just don't think it's fair to add more people to the list. But we definitely want to add more neighborhoods. We are excited to work with more neighborhoods. We just don't want to get too far ahead of the construction schedule. So you can sign up for our emails, and Hannah can put the link in the chat for you. And you'll get notice about when we'll be looking to add more neighborhoods. The process is pretty simple. So we do need to look at a full network of streets. So we can't just do one street at a time for speed humps, because it might mean that one street over, drivers will just go extra fast. So we try to look at a group of streets that intersect with each other. And then you and your neighbors will get together. You'll figure out like what neighborhood streets do you want us to be considering as part of your community group. We prioritize, and then within that neighborhood, we just need 24 signatures of residents who live in that area. And then we look at all of the neighborhoods that have put in paperwork, and we prioritize based on the number of households that have youth 18 and under. We look at how many elders live in the community, so 65 plus. We also look at how many people with disabilities live there, if there are parks, schools, community centers, places that we would expect more elders or youth or people with disabilities to be at. And we prioritize all of the neighborhoods based on that. So I can't say whether your neighborhood would be at the top of the list or if it would be somewhere in the middle. But my guess is just because of the demographics of Roxbury that you won't be any lower than somewhere in the middle, just because there are a lot more children and elders who are in this area. But that would be the process to join.
Okay.
Stephanie, can I ask a question, please?
Of course.
I think what I've seen so far, you've done a great job. Thank you. I think, no, I don't.
It's a team effort, but thank you.
No, well, to all of you, and it's a very difficult one because, streets all over the city, it's just, they were planned by cows, I think. And so here we are with cars and people that are just crazy. But what I wanted to bring up with you, I know you're not on on the Winthrop Street planning yet, but this is an observation that I don't know if you are really aware of. If I was to head down Blue Hill Avenue and I wanted to get out to Nubian Square very quickly, I wouldn't, for me, and this is what everybody else does, you wouldn't take Moreland Street because you have a light at the corner of Moreland and Warren, and then you have a light at the corner of Moreland and Blue Hill. So you've got two lights, and Moreland Street is a two-way and it curves. So you've got cars coming and going on one street with curves. You've got lights. So what people do in the morning is that they use Winthrop as a direct shot, right to get out to either, out to Warren, because they'll go Winthrop all the way. And I'm talking that they don't just go at a casual speed. I'm talking it's a straight shot. That's scary. And my concern is, I brought this up before, is the Dearborn is right there. And at that hour in the morning, we have children walking to school. I will say there's been a big improvement that just happened within a week and a half ago. I woke up and I thought I was seeing things. I had to I didn't know whether it snowed out through the night or what, but across the street from me, there's Whiting, and they added a crosswalk across Whiting Street right at Winthrop. That has never been there. I've been here 25 years and there's never been a crosswalk there. So I thought that was interesting. But I was concerned about why they just added it just on that street, whereas they didn't add it on Phelan Street, because that's, where the crosswalk would be, where you would walk to the park. And I was just curious, do you know anything about why crosswalks are added on certain streets?
I wish I knew. Sometimes it's, a contractor didn't finish their work and, we've been hounding them and they finally showed up and did it. That is very new because we've been out there last month and there wasn't anything there.
It happened, I'll tell you, it happened, they did it on a Sunday night. It had to be 2:00 in the morning. As I said, I woke up and I looked out and I was kind of rubbing my eyes, thinking, did it snow out? Am I seeing snow across the street? But what it was a white crosswalk that's never, ever been there. And, but it's strange because it's not on Cleveland, it's not on Phelan.
Yeah, it is strange that they would only do one because it takes such an effort to get the crews out. So that's an urban mystery. I'll say that.
Okay.
I think
they did do the crosswalk across Winthrop for going to the park. It just I I don't know. It was strange. But anyways, getting back to my original about how Winthrop Street is being used as a
Yeah.
work short. And I don't know. So, but not only that, but then we have the other problem that during the day, everybody uses Winthrop Street. They come up Greenville, and then to get out to, oh, so okay, so if you come up Greenville, if you're coming from Dudley and you go up Greenville,
Yep.
you go straight ahead on Winthrop, you can take a right onto Whiting and get right out to Warren. So that's scary. During the day, we'll be out there and cars are coming like opposite direction of the street, and it's sometimes it's like, you're used to, cars going one way, and then if you're not really careful, all of a sudden,
Oh yeah, yeah.
a car comes a different way, and you're kind of like, jump because, you're just not expecting it. And so whoever does it, naturally, they don't take their time doing it. They're speeding
Yeah.
down to try to get it, done as fast as they can. So I don't know what can be done about that. I mean, the speed humps have to be done, but I don't know if speed humps are going to be able to help us with the directional. I don't know what can be done about that, and it's a real problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think we've heard it from you and your neighbors a number of times about
Yeah.
people going the wrong way on that block. So that is something that we're still brainstorming potential solutions. Like, what else can we do to discourage that from happening?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be like
Yeah, and I don't
too
want
dark of like, I don't know if we're going to be able to solve it, but I think at minimum, at least we'll have the speed humps so they won't be able to just fly like they are right now. So hopefully we can figure out something to really discourage them from going that direction. I wish that we could do those types of things like you would see in a parking lot where if you go the wrong way, you're tired.
Yeah. No.
We can't do that because we're the government.
Really, believe me, I've thought about it. I've stayed up nights thinking about what could possibly be done. I drive through Jamaica Plain and I think the speed humps you're talking about are some of the ones that I see that are existing in Jamaica Plain on some of the side streets, like Williams Street, I think it is.
Yeah, Williams and Rossmore, that was part of our early neighborhood slow street. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, those work wonderful. They really do. I'm impressed by the way that they work, because I myself would used to take those streets, and you could really go out if you wanted to get out to Washington Street, and I think, as a matter of fact, today I used it and I told somebody, I think this is what they're going to be putting on our street, and they said that these would be great. So I think, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that directional thing is just something that's scary here. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with children, now that school is back in session, it's a problem. I wish I knew how you. Stephanie, then I'll let you go. I have seen though, and I don't know how they get away with it. I've seen like some streets that you can drive down, then all of a sudden they'll have a sign that says one way and you're forced to go like either right or left. Do you know what I mean? Like say for example, how can I explain it? Say like if you were to drive down from Greenville and Cleveland on Winthrop, and you came down Winthrop Street, and then when you got to Fairland, you would have to take a right because they would have a stop sign there.
Oh yeah, I think I know. So it's more like the street is like you can't drive past it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. The like name for that is a diverter. Yeah. We don't have a lot of those in Boston. I know of one in Brookline. But doing something like that definitely has impacts on how everyone in the neighborhood is able to get through and changes their patterns too. So it's not something that we like can't look at. I just
Well,
want to note that it can
yeah.
be
And
challenging.
Stephanie, the reason why I say that, because that section of the street is only 3 houses. And the other, what is the largest there is the Jehovah Witness Hall. And they have they have a tough problem trying to get in and out of their parking lot, because they have to come down Winthrop from Blue Hill, come all the way down to get into their parking lot. And then when they leave, they either have to go out Whiting, or they have to go Winthrop to wherever, I don't know, the Greenville. So I know for a fact, if you polled the area, I don't know of anybody that would object to it. I'm not saying that's exactly what you should do, but I think it's a suggestion, something that you could think about when you're looking at the area. And that's all you've gone far enough.
No, thank you. I mean, I think if people are open to doing things that are very different, I don't want to say no. So we can definitely look at that. So like if you're coming down Greenville, you physically wouldn't be able to make a left on Winthrop. And so if you're like at the,
if you're coming down, if you're coming down Greenville, if you're coming up Greenville, excuse me, so if you're at the point of Greenville, Winthrop, Cleveland, so you could take that right-hand curve around Winthrop, but you couldn't go down Cleveland, but you could go straight ahead down Winthrop, and then when you got to Fairland, you would be forced to take a right, and would bring you up onto Moreland. Do you understand what I mean?
Kind of.
Yeah, I'd be glad to discuss it if sometime.
Yeah. Let's
yeah,
let's set up some time to, we'll talk a little bit more with the team, and let's set up some time to try to visualize what this is with you.
Thank you. I don't want to keep you any longer. You've been very, pleasant and informative. Believe me, I think that the job you people are doing is terrific, because this neighborhood has been crying out for it. It really needs it. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Just want to make a note that we're at 8:19, and so I think we're going to wrap up at 8:30, but I'm just going to give it over to Luz so you can ask one more question.
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you for letting us join the meeting tonight. It was very informative, and I appreciate that. The other piece is I wanted to say to Mr. Kenneth that Rand Street and Julian Street are the streets that we are working, that we mentioned before. That's one of the streets it's literally the other side of Blue Hill Ave, so to speak, right? You're working in one side and the traffic is coming down to the other side. So everybody is having the same problem, especially because Blue Hill Ave has become very hectic intersection going back and forth, especially because of the construction that they've been doing. So everybody's just cutting through the little side streets, and this is why we're seeing so many problems. And it's not new, but it has become worse. I just wanted to mention that, and just want to reach out. I'm going to be reaching out to via email to see what is the process, because if there's petitions and stuff that needs to be made in our community, then as community organizers, we could start that process and help our community and you as well, right? In the process of trying to support with this program that is definitely, as you hear, is definitely needed in our streets. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, so I think we're going to wrap up here, but please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. So Just wanted to share again that we'll send out more information by letter, by mail in the neighborhood. And then please look out again for another meeting where we can talk about even the other concerns within the zone that people have mentioned so far this meeting. So this is a large area, so there's a lot to talk about, and which is why we can't all do it in one meeting. But we try to bring you into the design process every step in the way. So every time we are doing a change, we're trying our best to share it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Right.
Thank you.